Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi stands as one of the most consequential and enduring figures in Kenya's political history. Serving as the country's second president from 1978 to 2002, he became the longest-serving head of state in Kenya, ruling for 24 years. His presidency shaped generations, institutions, and the political culture of the nation long after his exit from power. To supporters, Moi was remembered as a stabilizing force who maintained national unity during turbulent Cold War politics, oversaw Kenya's role as a regional mediator, and expanded access to education through institutions that continue to bear his imprint, including Kabarak University, Sunshine Schools, and Sacho High School. His influence extended beyond Kenya's borders when he served as chairperson of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, from 1981 to 1983, placing him at the center of continental diplomacy. Moi's legacy is also tied to his identity as Malim, the teacher, an image he deliberately cultivated throughout his career. His background in education shaped both his leadership style and political messaging, earning him the nickname the Professor of Politics. Even after retiring from office in 2002, he remained relevant in public life. In 2007, President Muyaki Kibaki appointed him Special Peace Envoy to Sudan, recognizing his decades of experience in mediation and regional affairs. At the time of his death, Moi had accumulated one of the largest private fortunes in East Africa, leaving behind a vast family empire spanning education, media, banking, aviation, agriculture, hospitality, logistics, and real estate. His death in 2020 triggered national mourning, and he was buried with full military honors at his Kabarak home, cementing his place as a towering, if deeply polarizing, national figure. Despite his political longevity and regional stature, Moi's presidency remains one of the most controversial periods in Kenya's post-independence history. His rule was repeatedly accused of entrenching authoritarianism, corruption, and systematic human rights violations. Economically, his administration was marred by major scandals, most notably the Goldenberg scandal, which is estimated to have cost Kenya over 10% of its GDP. The scheme involved fraudulent export compensation payments and severely weakened the national economy. This was followed by the Anglo leasing scandal, centered on fictitious security and infrastructure contracts. Investigations, leaked intelligence reports, and later testimonies alleged that billions of dollars were siphoned and hidden in offshore accounts, though Moi himself consistently denied personal wrongdoing. Politically, his government was accused of widespread repression. Following the failed coup attempt of 1982, Kenya effectively became a de facto one-party state. Security agencies were accused of detentions without trial, torture, and intimidation of dissidents. The existence of torture chambers at Nyayo House became a symbol of state brutality. In July 1990, the Saba Saba protests were violently suppressed, resulting in deaths, mass arrests, and international condemnation. Moi's presidency was also overshadowed by unresolved political assassinations, most notably the 1989 murder of Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Robert Oko, a case that remains unsolved. The 1990s further saw accusations of state-sponsored ethnic violence, particularly during the transition to multi-party politics. Extensive land grabbing, allegedly facilitated by the state and political elites, was later documented by Kenya's Truth, Justice, and Reconciliation Commission, TJRC, further complicating his historical record. Even after his death, controversy followed his legacy through prolonged inheritance disputes within the Moi family. In 2025, a court-sanctioned agreement divided his estate, but legal challenges involving grandchildren, particularly from the estate of his late son Jonathan, continued into early 2026. Background and life story. Daniel Toroyatich Arap Moi was born on September 2, 1924, in Kuriengo Village, Sacho Division, in what is today Baringo County, Kenya. He was born into the Tugen community and given the traditional name Toroyatich, meaning welcome home the cattle. In 1934, upon enrolling at the Africa Inland Mission School in Kabatonjo, he adopted the Christian name Daniel, marking the beginning of a lifelong association with Christianity and Western education. His early life was shaped by hardship and loss. His father, Kimoy Arap Chebi, a herdsman from the Sot clan who had settled in the Tugen Hills, died around 1928 when Moi was approximately 4 years old. His mother, Kabom, Chebi's senior wife, was left to raise the family under difficult circumstances. Moi was the fifth child born to her. After his father's death, his upbringing fell largely to his elder brother, William Tuitwek, who became his guardian. Convinced that education was the only path out of poverty, Tuitwek ensured that Moi remained in school, a decision that would determine the course of his life. Most of Moi's other siblings lived private lives and stayed outside public attention. Moi began formal schooling in 1934 at the Africa Inland Mission School in Kabatonjo, before proceeding to Kapsabet Government African School, where he completed his secondary education in 1942. The school is today known as Kapsabet High School. His education, entirely undertaken in Kenya, laid the foundation for his teaching career and political identity. Between 1945 and 1947, Moi trained as a teacher at Kapsabet Teachers Training College. In 1949, he attended a short professional course at Kagumo Teachers College, earning promotion to P2 teacher. A year later, in 1950, he completed an administrative course at Jean's School, Kabete, now the Kenya School of Government, qualifying him for leadership roles within the education system. In 1961, after entering politics, he further expanded his skills by attending a British parliamentary course in the United Kingdom, where he studied parliamentary systems. Moi's teaching career spanned 1945 to 1955. He began as a P3 classroom teacher at Government African School, Tambak, in 1945. By 1946, at just 22 years old, he had already been promoted to head teacher. He later served as headmaster at Kabarnet Intermediate School and Kapsabet Intermediate School, and by 1950, he had risen to assistant principal at Tambak Teachers Training College, a position he held until leaving full-time teaching. In 1955, Moi entered politics unexpectedly when he was selected to represent the Rift Valley Province in the Colonial Legislative Council, LEGCO, a seat he held until 1963. In 1960, he co-founded the Kenya African Democratic Union, KADU, and became its chairman. KADU championed minority rights and regionalism, positioning itself against the centralist vision of KANU. As independence approached, Moi served as Minister of Education in 1961, followed by Minister for Local Government from 1962 to 1964. When KADU dissolved into KANU in 1964, he was appointed Minister for Home Affairs, cementing his place within government leadership. His loyalty to President Jomo Kenyatta proved decisive, and in 1967, Moi was appointed Vice President, a position he held for 11 years. Following Kenyatta's death in 1978, Moi constitutionally assumed the presidency. He ruled Kenya until 2002, becoming the longest-serving president in the country's history. Moi's personal life was marked by a long marriage that ended before his presidency. In 1950, he married Helena Lina Tungo Bomet, a fellow teacher and daughter of a pioneer Christian. The marriage deteriorated, and the couple separated in 1974. One widely cited cause was a 1974 dinner dance incident during which Lina, a devout Christian, refused to dance with President Kenyatta, publicly embarrassing Moi. Their divorce was finalized in 1979, 1 year into his presidency. Moi never remarried and served as a bachelor president without a first lady. Lena lived quietly in Kabimoy until her death in 2004. Together, they had 8 children: Jennifer Chemutai Kositani, a businesswoman; Jonathan Toroitich, a former rally driver who died in 2019; John Mark Moi, a former government geologist; Raymond Moi, former MP for Rongai; Philip Moi, a retired Army major; Doris Chekarir Moi, Philip's twin who lives privately; Gideon Moi, the youngest son, former Baringo senator and chairman of KANU; and June Tibet Moi, an adopted daughter and Lena's niece, who died in 2024. Daniel Torotich Arap Moi died on February 4, 2020, at the Nairobi hospital, aged 95. His death was attributed to multiple organ failure triggered by a severe gastrointestinal hemorrhage following prolonged illness that included pleural effusion, recurrent pneumonia, and a tracheostomy. Reports also indicated he suffered from Alzheimer's disease or dementia in his final years.